Chart ruler Jupiter this month goes into its annual retrograde. He does this once a year for 5.5 months. Not your first rodeo. We're going to be getting into the astrological weeds of what this means for you as a Sagittarius rising sign in this video, alongside all the planets and transits. It's a busy sky astrologically. So it'll be an extra long video. Take it in chunks. You don't have to digest it all at once, or grab a cuppa, grab a bourbon, whatever floats your boat, and enjoy the astrological content coming your way in this video. Let's get cracking. All right, it's go time. From the 4th of November, Mars will be visiting your natal first house. It's been 2 years since Mars went into Sagittarius. That's how long it takes Mars to transit through the whole zodiac. So Mars will be in your first house for the whole month of November, all the way up until the 15th of December. So what can you expect with Mars in the first? Well, Mars brings us a lot of energy, and with energy, we need to focus it in some sort of direction for us regarding starting something new. Do something brand new for yourself. Mars energizes you enough to get exploring. What do you want to do? What do you want to begin? What do you want to do about your own physical body, which is what the first house represents? Anything to do with initiation. With Mars in the first house, you've got a fire under your feet and you're more than prepared to go that extra mile when Mars is in the first house. So knowing that balance is the key, because Mars can have us a little bit exacerbated, a little bit too extra. So we don't want to hurt ourselves and overcompensate when we know we should be, admitting that we're not as strong as we may like to be. And with that, we get to develop a muscle in strategizing a plan that fits our needs just right with Mars in Sagittarius for the whole month of November. You also have Mercury in your natal first house. Poor old Mercury is all banged up in detriment traditionally. And so Mercury needs a little bit of help. So with Mercury feeling like he's drowning out in your natal first house, this can be a lot of overdoing it with finance, overdoing it with traveling, overdoing it with thinking, too much talking, reading, writing. So easy does it with Mercury in Sagittarius, where he feels the need to overcompensate. And that means you might be really looking at your finances and your travel itinerary and maybe trying to nut out lots of ups and downs with your thinking process with Mercury in the first house when it's in detriment. So thank the goddess Mars is here, because Mars will be helping Mercury out, and that's quite good, which means there'll be a moment regarding travel and your finances and communication will be coming into more structure when Mars and Mercury conjunct later in the month. So Mercury gets a little bit of a hand from Mars here, which is quite good. Okay, on the 5th, Mars sextile Pluto with our first lunation of the month, the full moon, exalted in Taurus at 13 degrees. Big day. Mars sextile Pluto is pretty potent though, filtering in the background on the day of our first lunation. Okay, with Mars sextile Pluto, this archetypal combination isn't subtle, because both Mars and Pluto are big dogs. And with Mars in your first house of self and new starts, easily connecting with Pluto in Aquarius in your third house. Yeah, I think you might be having a pretty self-satisfactory day with Mars sextile Pluto, indicating that there's something coming into focus that really does lift your spirits, with the full moon exalted in Taurus as well. So the 5th is a standout day where you get to see pretty clearly the environment and the people you surround yourself with, and how your body is responding in kind to busyness. How are you coping with going on the 5th, you'll have a pretty good gauge on, wow, I can really see, which is the full moon phase, that my daily life, my schedule, my routine, my work, my sense of service is coming into full focus. And I'm feeling pretty in my skin with Mars in the first sextiling Pluto, and knowing that things are accelerating and moving forward pretty organically for you as a Sagittarius rising sign on the 5th. So, astrologically, if you listen to astrology and planets and transits, you're like, oh, what's a really good day where it's like, oh, yeah, things are pretty good here? The 5th will be one of those days with Mars sextile Pluto and an exalted full moon in your natal 6th house. So, planning ahead of time, I'd be putting your best foot forward in regards to connecting with people that can advance you in a professional capacity, anything involved with educational aspects and your community. It's well advised to be out there and seen on the 5th, because that full moon in the 6th house of work and labour and service and going, you could be easily snapped up or scouted out or taken up a notch. This is like upping the ante by you basically being present and being seen as someone that really can get a job done. So I like this for job interviews, appointments, conversations that can be quite transformative on the 5th of November. On the 6th, Venus visits Scorpio in your natal 12th house until the 30th. Venus is at top speed in the solar system, so quick visit to your 12th house. And Venus traditionally is in detriment, where the Sun is also co-present until the 21st. Okay. Not too concerned about this, other than it just screams overindulgence. It screams overindulgence, Venus and Scorpio in the 12th house of the unseen. So when Venus is in Scorpio, this is like, don't worry about it. Let's go mad. Let's just get what we want and do what we want, and we'll think about the consequences later. So that could be quite devilishly fun, absolutely. But there are always consequences for our actions. So you may find yourself running up against walls as well with just overdoing it with Venus in your natal 12th house. Because she's in detriment traditionally, that indicates that she's going a little bit harder. So we're really white knuckling and bulldogging towards things that we love, which is Venus, unity. I want to connect. I want to unite. I want to adorn myself with beautiful things. I want what I want. In Scorpio, she fixates on what she wants. Excuse me, and there's no bargaining with Venus in Scorpio, because I want it. And that's the end of it. So it just screams, just know your limits, for goodness sake, is human advice with this transit of Venus in detriment in Scorpio in your natal 12th house, because you could be doing a bit of unraveling here, and you may not be all that too impressed with yourself when Venus gets in the first house on the 30th, where you have to go, oh, I have to own all this now. So it's a good way of knowing ahead. That's why it's great working with astrology and understanding planets and transits. So from the 6th to the 30th, do your best to know your limits. Don't be so vehement in going for it. There are always consequences kind of transit. Okay, on the 7th, retrograde Uranus in Gemini retrogrades back into Taurus, into your natal 6th house. Will officially go direct February 3rd, 2026 at 27 degrees, and will move back into your natal 7th house of relationships and other people on April 25, 2026, where he'll stay put to 2032. Okay. And the same day on the 7th, Venus is squaring Pluto. Yeah. Okay. Taurus is such a beautiful zodiac sign, but Taurus is a fixed earth sign, like hard to change, hard to move, very rigid, very stoic. So with Uranus going back into Taurus in the natal sixth house, this will be pretty dynamic for Sagittarius rising signs. So Uranus has been in your natal sixth house for over 6 years. Not your first rodeo, but with Uranus going back for one last tilling of the soil in the sixth house of work and labour and service and schedule and routine, there's something here that Uranus needs to finish, and it can be chaotic. So forewarned is forearmed, your daily life is going through another transition. And that's what Uranus brings, change, to transition something into a new normal in your daily experience. So roll with it. It's all you can do. High highs, low lows in your daily life is going through a transitioning stage with Uranus back in the natal sixth house of Taurus. The same day with Venus squaring off with Pluto, though, this is talk about contentious. Venus and Pluto. Venus is in a superior square, though. So we've got your natal 12th house being a little bit more powerful than the third house, meaning this could be a day on the 7th where it's really clear how things that go on behind the scenes in solitude and in private with your own personal life is not really helping advancement in moving out into the community organically. There's something in this with Venus square Pluto, because with Venus just doing what she wants, I want what I want, squaring off with Pluto, this is like challenging the status quo, challenging the way everyone else does it. And Venus goes, I don't give a shit about what everyone else is doing, in the natal third house of siblings, travel, and education. So this is a ripe day for an argument on the 7th with Venus square Pluto. In a superior square, Venus is winning out, though, which is a little bit concerning, meaning it can be a detrimental mindset to not jump on board with listening to another side or another opinion on the 7th. So easy does it. On the 9th, Mercury in Sagittarius, where he's all banged up and struggling. Oh, he's all nervous. In a natal first house about travel and finance and communication, begins its third and final retrograde of 2025 at 6 degrees. Now, this is your first house. So when Mercury goes into a retrograde period, it's analysis time in what you've been experiencing since Mercury ingressed into your first house, which was the 29th of October, not so long ago. So whatever occurred in that block of time from the 29th of October to the 9th of this year, Mercury will have you thinking about it, whether that was money exchanges, travel, communication, thoughts and conversations will be embodied. You'll be going through a process of, okay, I can see, I understand, I know what's going on. when Mercury is in a retrograde. But it screams nerves to me about maybe action or events or conversations or exchanges monetarily or to do with travel needs a little bit of finessing with Mercury now retrograde in the natal first house at 6 degrees. Okay, your chart ruler, Jupiter, officially on the 11th begins its annual retrograde in Cancer, where your chart ruler, Jupiter, is exalted, yummy, in your natal 8th house. And the retrograde begins at 25 degrees, and Jupiter won't station direct until March 10, 2026 at 15 degrees. Okay, so now we're talking about your chart ruler. So we're going there. So Jupiter ingressed into Cancer, your natal 8th house of others, resources, and transformation, inheritance, and death, mid 2025. So you're the expert in you. What have you experienced in regards to other people's resources? Factoring in the exaltation component of Jupiter's position in Cancer, the moon sign, does it be a lot focusing in on the environments and the people we surround ourselves with and how our body, because Jupiter rules the body and the self and new beginnings, how are you gauging? How are you going, wow, things are getting bigger. Things have been excitable. Things have really been expanding with my own personal experiences and how other people's resources are transforming you and bringing in the topics of inheritance and death. Then there's a death of the old you now coming into sharp focus when Jupiter begins its annual retrograde before it goes direct next year. So knowing that Jupiter's going into retrograde, just be okay with going, oh, yeah, I need to give some focus and time to what I've been engaging with since mid 2025. What has changed for you exponentially so much that you can now see a big transformation happening that's affecting you with inheritance, topics, death, and other people's resources? What have you benefited from, if any at all? And how is it affecting you and what you want to begin? You'll have plenty of time now with Jupiter in its retrograde phase to feel out what's working, what's happening. And with that, you get an opportunity to change lanes, change directions, streamline, get your moral and ethical compass just right in executing your well laid plans when it comes to capitalizing on other people's resources that can get you over a line and create some sort of transformation for you that's beneficial and elevating you towards advancement in growth. So pretty punchy with chart ruler Jupiter now beginning its retrograde phase on the 11th of November. Beautiful. On the 12th, retrograde Mercury conjuncts Mars at 6 degrees. Happy days. So, yeah, I think this is about you taking control and really nutting out the ins and outs regarding your life. You're taking inventory pretty seriously on the 12th about work, your self direction, money, finances, communication, logistics. You're going to be like the star auditor with retrograde Mercury conjunct Mars in the first house on the 12th. So, yeah, pretty significant day for getting down to the realities. On the 17th, we have our first grand water trine of November. We've been having grand water trines since October this year and it continues in November. So we have the Sun trine retrograde Jupiter. So you're getting a direct connection from the Sun. Really nice. Jupiter Sun trines are pretty potent. And also retrograde Jupiter's trining retrograde Saturn. And the same day, we've got Pluto sextile retrograde Mercury. Okay, so it looks like a resuscitation of plans, well laid plans that need to be executed. And you're all on board with being very practical and knowing that things need to be tempered down and more controlled on the 17th with a grand water trine from the Sun and Jupiter and retrograde Saturn and Pluto sextiling retrograde Mercury. Looks like a pretty easy day to see, where you're heading and intuiting the right moves forward now with this trine and Pluto sextile retrograde Mercury. Nice. Okay, on the 18th, retrograde Mercury ingresses back into Scorpio, the 12th house with the Sun and Venus, and Mercury won't station direct until the 27th of November. Well, now Mercury is off that angular part of your natal chart, which is the first house, which is you. So this is maybe recovery time with Mercury in the 12th house now. You might get a bit of a exhale, pressures off a little bit regarding finances, travel, and being too much in your head now that Mercury's out of the natal first house, which is good for just being more focused and streamlined. You've got Mars well positioned in Sagittarius. So from the 18th moving forward into December, it's time to strategize well about your direction that you're going in regarding new starts, your body, your health, your appearance, your sense of self is getting a bit more time that it needs with no distraction from Mercury in detriment in your first house. On the 21st, we are having our second lunation of the month, and it is a new moon in fall in Scorpio at 28 degrees with the retrograde Mercury Cazimi. It's a fancy word of saying Mercury is in the heart of the sun, lighting up your natal 12th house. The sun is opposing retrograde Uranus, it's trining retrograde Neptune, and then the sun ingresses into Sagittarius, your first house, joining Mars for 4 weeks. Mars will leave on the 15th of December, but the sun will be there for 4 weeks. Okay. Pretty active aspects from the sun and the moon and Mercury. Yeah, this is pretty chaotic is what I'm getting with all this archetypal tension and aspects. A fallen new moon in Scorpio. Yeah, it happens once a year. It's nothing new. But new moons in Scorpio is about, I feel like a foreigner in a foreign place. I feel like I'm lost in the source, and I feel like I shouldn't be here. That's the component of a fallen moon. And in Scorpio, that's pretty deep. Um, so this can be a bittersweet beginning because it is a new moon phase. But what I do like is we've got Mercury in the heart of the sun, regardless of being in a retrograde phase. That's still quite helpful, a Kazemi, with a fallen new moon in Scorpio in your 12th house of the unseen, where we drop into things out of the public view. Um, it's about where we do get lost, like we are just blown around by the wind. So a new moon in Scorpio is always about a necessary evil to take us into new environments and experiences, even uncomfortable ones at that. But a necessary bittersweet beginning needs to occur. And it can be because of finances, travel, or communication that needs to be elevated into more flow and getting people on the same page regarding conversations and initiatives. And with the sun having all these aspects, oppositions and trines, and then leaves the 12th house and goes into the first house, what I'm archetypally getting here is it's not ideal, this new beginning that's going on, but it does mean that your daily life and your home life needs this change because the 6th and the 4th house at the sun is trining and opposing. both Uranus and retrograde Neptune. And then the sun going into the first house, which is always beneficial to have the sun in the first house, and with Mars co-present. And for 4 weeks, then the sun being the ruler of our spirit and our life force to shine and have intelligence and know our life direction. There's something here in knowing we've got to up the ante here. We've got to level up. We've got to mature. We've got to grow up, and we need something to transform and change. So I think there's a moment of deep breaths. This is happening. We've got to go. We've got to do something new here. And with retrograde Mercury Cazimi, I think it's that moment of, it's time. It's time. And it'll be very personal to you as a Sagittarius rising sign. So how do you feel about changing something up that you've been avoiding? Because the sun is going, well, look, if we don't change something that we do in isolation behind closed doors, it can have a knock-on effect with our home and our family and our work and our daily life, even our health. So we got to do it. It's that kind of day on the 21st. On the 25th, Venus conjuncts retrograde Mercury at 22 degrees. Okay, with Venus conjunct retrograde Mercury, it's just like a doubling down on the new moon. Uncomfortable conversations and realities are coming in hot when Mercury connects with Venus in a conjunction at 22 degrees on the 25th. The next day on the 26th, we go, okay, well, it is what it is. We're having our second grand water trine of November. But Venus is setting this one off. So she's trining to your chart ruler, Jupiter. Nice. Benefic trine is always welcome. And retrograde Jupiter trining retrograde Saturn. Beautiful grand water trine. And officially on the 26th, Saturn stations direct in Pisces. All right. Grand water trine, Venus, Jupiter, retrograde Saturn. Yeah. Easy to drop into your five senses and know that you're on board with a transformation here that's going to elevate your home and family life, and you're ready to change the guard, till the soil quite easily with a grand water trine. It's like the spidey senses are all heightened on the 26th, and it can be a serendipitous day of going, yeah, things are changing, it's happening, the transition's changing, and I'm going with it kind of day with this grand water trine on the 26th. With Saturn officially stationing direct in your natal fourth house, this is a really good moment to go, wow, yeah, I feel more mature, I feel very determined, I know what I know. I know that I'm moving in the right direction. So big changes going on with your family, home life and domestic sphere. With Saturn stationing direct, there's more certainty about the direction you're going in. So this is like Saturn saying, look, we need to have something foundational here. Like we need our little lily pads to jump from when we expand into the world. So Saturn going direct in the fourth house of domestic issues means that something can be now settled, and everyone sort of knows what's going on, including you, on how you want your family unit to be and what's going on with your home life. Interesting. On the 27th, Venus opposes retrograde Uranus. Yeah, again, this is Venus just, I don't want to play. So this can be about not wanting to show up, wanting to put your head under the covers kind of day with Venus opposed to Uranus retrograde. I like to think of this archetypally with Venus opposed to retrograde Uranus is don't disturb me. So it can be a pretty heady day as far as you being determined to keep something out of the spotlight or keep something or someone from an arm's distance with Venus opposed retrograde Uranus. Mercury officially stations direct at 20 degrees. That's good news. So Mercury in the 12th house of Scorpio direct, again, astrologically indicates that finance, money, travel issues, and communication is now getting a little bit more settled. That settles your nervous system down with Mercury direct at 20 degrees on the 27th. On the 30th, we have Venus trine retrograde Neptune. Yeah, this is really good for recovering lost items or objects or even significant conversations with family or within your home environment with Venus trine retrograde Neptune. Even can be recovering uh, a more optimistic view about your home and family life with Venus trine retrograde Neptune. That's quite nice. And then Venus ingresses into Sagittarius on the same day in your natal first house. So Venus is blessing your natal first house. Happy days. So Venus is joining Mars and the Sun. So Venus is in your first house until the 24th of December. Now, when Venus transits our first house, we really do uh, have a strong opinion about our values, what we love, what we want in the first house, and we're happy to initiate and maybe even be a little bit preachy about what we love. With Venus in the first house of Sagittarius, Venus is seeking knowledge and information. She's seeking adventure. She's seeking excitement. She's seeking expanding into something that intellectually fires her up and stimulates her. So in the first house of you, you're seeking adventure. I want to go. I want to grow. I want to drop into connecting with different people, places, and things that can get me really fired up and optimistic about my own life direction. So you're interested, you're focusing in on Venus, you're attracted towards life with different cultures, different foreign places and experiences with Venus in the first house. It's really quite nice with Venus in the house of self, where I want to express myself and I want to learn, I want to know, I want to grow. Really quite powerful with Venus in the first house of Sagittarius from the 30th to December 24. Pretty punchy. But Jupiter is your chart ruler as a Sagittarius rising sign. And Jupiter is now officially in its retrograde phase. Other people's resources, transformation, death, and inheritance. So your chart ruler Jupiter is giving you time to peruse the terrain, if you will. And Venus, Mars, and the Sun are in your natal first house. And it is Sagittarius. So Jupiter's ruling that. And it's in its retrograde phase. So all these new starts and new beginnings and getting excited and taking ownership of your life is being ruled by retrograde Jupiter in the 8th house. So you're tilling the soil of your life here in your life direction, and you're feeling out your next moves and your options. And I think there's going to be a big focus on foreigners, travel, and education with this astrology that's going on in the month of November for you as a Sagittarius rising sign. Pretty big stuff. Thanks for tuning in with your Cosmic Girl, with your astrological horoscope for November. It's a pretty lively one. Chart ruler Jupiter is in a retrograde phase now. Who do you need to connect with, and who have you been connecting with? That's basically giving you a heads up on your next moves forward before he goes direct on March 10, 2026. If you'd like to work with your Cosmic Girl 101, I can be contacted at the email cosmicgirl101@protonmail.com. Till next time, Sagittarius rising signs, you stay cosmic.